Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jim and Sam Town Square. I'm Scott King. Jim and Sam fans know me from the Forbes articles, and I'm joined, as always, by multi-Emmy award-winning TV producer Chris Cangilla. This episode, we're not recapping a week. This is a very, very special episode with a very special guest. We teased last time he likes bagels. He's very pleasing. Chris, who do we have on the show?
Yeah, the one and only Phil Selman. Yeah, Phil has graciously, agreed to being on this thing we call the Town Square. And yeah, it's a great interview. We had a lot of fun talking with Phil. And, I've enjoyed him on Jim and Sam, and I think everybody else will enjoy him here.
Here we are with the Phil Selman. Phil, Thank you so much for doing this, man. We appreciate it. You have had some amazing appearances on Jim and Sam, and we welcome you now to the Jim and Sam Town.
It was my 10th time. It was my 10th time the last time, so it's many times I've been on there now.
10 already, wow.
Can I curse on here, or you have to be clean on here?
Whatever you want to do, my friend.
Be yourself, Phil.
Okay, all right. If I feel the need to curse.
Yeah, Phil, thanks again for joining us. And Scott and I were talking about it, and we've thoroughly enjoyed you on Jim and Sam, but some of our listeners and viewers may not know all about you. So give them a little bit of history. How did you come up? How'd you get into the industry? All that kind of stuff.
Okay. I've been doing comedy BC before cable. I started in 1981, but the first time was when I was actually 15 years old on a teen tour. So I've been doing this for a long, long time. And back in the heyday, back in the 80s, I booked a lot of shows. And that's how I became friends with Jim. And that's where I gave Adam Sandler his first paid show, Chris Rock, Ray Romano. It's endless. Anybody from that period that went on to become famous. And then Jim Norton was the only person to remember me, of all these people.
That's awesome. Kind of go ahead,
sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I was just say that's a credit to Jim, and we all know him as one of the good ones left. Phil, when you were booking all these shows, would it be in the same venue or all over Manhattan?
All different. I had like 30 different places I was doing in like 8 states. So I had shows 7 nights a week. And I could just give people like a few weeks worth of work right off the bat. Back in the heyday when every place was doing it. The Grand Round was doing it. Friday, every place was doing it. Back in the day there. And then I pretty much got tired of that. I've always been a comedian, but I pretty much got tired of just booking comedians. I used to say 7 out of 10 comedians were no good. Now I say 9.5 out of 10. So I admit to being half bad at this point. I don't want to deal with. I don't really deal with too many comedians anymore.
So I did stand up about 10 years. I started booking rooms in Chicago, and I heard Norm Macdonald do an interview, and someone was talking about comics that book shows, and Norm goes, yeah, you know how funny the guys who book shows are. And that made me think about where I was at.
Well, comedians who book shows are like child molesters in prison. That's about how well thought of. It's the same. It's basically the same. It's pretty much the same idea.
That's amazing. So before you're booking and you're doing more stand-up, who was like your class of guys you came up with?
Well, it would have been like I got Adam Sandler, Chris Rock, Ray Romano, pretty much all those guys. Jerry Seinfeld a little bit before, Brett Butler, Lisa Lampanelli. Who else? I mean, I worked with Eddie Murphy. Like right in the beginning.
That's crazy.
We've heard you talk about Sandler and other guys that you feel owe you a little something. Now we'll get to that more later. But who, I guess, out of all those people, who was the most like normal person to work with back then?
I would say probably Sandler. He basically just called me sir. I'm not that much older than him, but he always called me sir, and he was a good ass kisser. So I said, this guy can go far. I've never been an ass kisser. I used to say, instead of like burning bridges, I've burned transportation systems. But I'm kinder and gentler now. So
it comes with age. I'm kind of old myself here, but yeah. So let's get back to the you're the 10 timers club here with Jim and Sam. How did you first get started? Did Jim invite you onto the show? What was your first appearance?
Jim was playing at a club in Bridgeport, and I went with a friend of mine to go to talk to him, and that because he'd mentioned me when he was on Opie and Anthony. He would occasionally mention a joke and credit it to me. And I probably should have maybe went on then, got a hold maybe to try to get on Opie and Anthony, but I don't know. I was distracted with other things at that point, I guess. And then, so then I said, well, maybe I have to get to him. And I knew the only way I would actually get to him was actually going to see him in a club. And that's how I was able to get to him.
And so you got on the show, was that Opie and Jim, or was that with
I was Sam? Just Jim and Sam.
Jim and Sam, okay. Very good. Very
Like
good.
3 years ago, Phil, was that your first
No, I think the first time I was on there was like 5 or 6 years. I don't know.
five or that many? Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's going fast. So what was Jim like as a young comic when you're giving him some gigs? What was your early impression of Mr.
He was
Norton?
he was funny and he was a deviant. He was a deviant. We were in Springfield, Massachusetts, and I picked up a girl and he goes, I had my ear to the wall while you were fucking her and I jerked off. I said, we were arguing. It was not sex we were arguing. But so I knew I liked this guy's a degenerate and I liked this guy. So as I said early on, I liked him.
Well,
And I
things don't change, right?
had to go do a show in Rhode Island at that place where all those people died. With that band. And I don't know where you guys are located. It was in Rhode
No,
Big. It was one of those hair bands. I don't
yeah,
remember.
the ceiling was really low and it caught on fire. Yeah, we're in
Oh, well,
Chicago.
wood. No, because I said one match and this whole place will go up, and hence
Sure enough, did.
it was a place made out of wood, and the whole place went up. When we did a show, there was like nobody there, so there was no fear of if there was a fire, we could have got out quickly. But there were no pyrotechnics during our performance.
That's crazy. Now, when you see Jim perform now, is his act different? Is it not as
He's
raunchy?
funnier. He's funny. I'd say he's much funnier. I mean, who can go from talking about their trans wife to talking about Biden, in just in one, just in one swoop. I mean, he's just very seamless and smooth and just very relaxed and just funny. He's always been real funny. And when I first met him, he seemed like he was about 15, and now he looks like he's about 19.
Yeah.
He's just a little chunkier and he has a little less hair, but he still pretty much looks the same. Because like him, Jim Florentine was also in that category. Jim Florentine, who I went to Amsterdam. We went to Kuwait for the military. I have my book coming out shortly, and I have my full story of Florentine in there. Florentine has written a comment for the book. But we went to Kuwait and each did like a 20-minute show, and the Jacksonville Jaguars cheerleaders did like a 2-hour show. We flew around telling dick jokes to the guys stationed, fighting. It was cool.
So did the dick jokes become before the cheerleaders came out, or the cheerleaders first and then the
The
dick
jokes came out, then the cheerleaders.
So they're set.
Dick jokes and then cheerleaders.
Perfect. That's the way it should be, I guess.
Yeah, you guys set the table. Yeah.
And they had like secret special ops during the day when we were with them. Nobody cared about us. No one was going to hurt me. And then the worst thing of all is we check into the Holiday Inn Ground Plaza, and I put the TV on. I'm in Kuwait, halfway around the world, and there was the Water Boy was on the television.
Of course.
This guy, I'm halfway around the world, and there's an Adam Sandler movie playing in Kuwait. Just can't get away.
That's amazing. You told a story. It sounded like you had a good time recently opening for Jim. And there was an issue that I think he has frequently, as we talk about on the show. Jim has to go. He calls it go to bathroom. He has to go to bathroom a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so how long did you have to stall when he was peeing?
It was a couple of minutes. Well, it was pretty quick. It was pretty quick. There was a bathroom by the stage, and he didn't really seem to be that upset about it. Because, I mean, people sometimes, in a situation, if it wasn't in a theater and it wasn't my show, and I probably would just walk off if somebody else didn't come up there. But, it's him and it's a theater and it's a nice show. I'm doing shows now with one of the husbands of the Housewives of New Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's another interesting. I don't know if you guys are up on that too much.
My wife watches all the time. She was watching that one last night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Joe Gorga, the sister.
Yeah.
He's the brother of the one who went to jail. He's a very nice guy. I'm doing shows with him. And it's good because they're all hot single women, older single women with money. So that's my demographic.
When we first started this interview, we were talking about how you say Jim's one of the only guys that still, remembers, you helping him out and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. What do you think now when, Jim has asked you to kind of open and bring you on there? Are you, I shouldn't say offended. Obviously you should be thankful, but is it like, is it something that really touches your heart, or is it what? Hey, this is just a good guy.
Nice, as I said it, because the thing for me to do those shows. I mean, I've played the biggest audience I ever played for was in front of 10,000 people. When I opened for Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons in Bossier City, Louisiana. But the thing is that I've opened it to be up in front of an audience people who know who I am was special. So that's nice. That was very nice. So by him letting me go on the show, opening for him, I'm just very appreciative.
But you're so established anyway as a comedian that everybody knows and that kind of thing. I'm just glad that it's a positive experience and not like going, oh gosh, I got to lean on a guy that I brought up to get me some gigs and get me some notoriety around here.
But that's that's how it works. It's all about followers. You guys know you're doing a podcast. It's all about followers now. If you have 1 million followers, you can headline any comedy club in the country. And I don't know how. If I killed myself with live streaming, I don't think I would get 1 million followers.
We hope not.
if you're over age, I don't think they allow you to have a certain amount of followers. That's what I'm beginning to believe. I just don't know. I don't know how. I still don't know how it works, but I just keep going.
So we've heard you talk about Sandler a lot on Jim and Sam specifically, but he did name a character after you in Eight Crazy Nights. Was that like enough for you? Are
No.
you just joking? You want more, right?
No, I want more.
You help him out.
I want something from him. I feel, because I just been trying to get to him for like 30 years. So I feel, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, like I actually bought tickets to go see him. He played at Newark at the Prudential Center last like a year ago. And I went with a friend of mine, and of course I couldn't get backstage. I got 2 tickets for $60, which is ironically what I paid him the last time he worked for me. So I figured it was up on the top. It was like up on the top. And as I said, we the same personal assistant that kept me away from him 30 years ago is still keeping me away from him. So I'm glad to see that guy still has a job and he's still keeping me away from him.
There's some loyalty there. He has some loyalty.
Well, he's probably going to take his job, I guess, probably. His flunky.
Who are some other guys that you think could show you some more appreciation?
Anybody, any of the people that work for me. I remember Roseanne was on the Arsenio Hall show once, and he said, if you weren't a big famous TV star, what would you be doing? I said, I'd be working for Phil Selman. And he said, who's Phil Selman? She goes, I rest my case. And then, of course, I tried to get a hold of her, but Tom Arnold was afraid I was going to take his meal ticket away from him. So, because we used to we'd stand in front of the Comedy Store and say, would you sleep with her if it would help your career? No. And then, of course, Tom Arnold came around, and there's a career there. And he had worked for me, Tom Arnold. He was like another crazed alcoholic, drug addict comedian, back in the day from Iowa, a Jew from Iowa. And
so, Phil, when I was growing up, I grew up in Colorado, and I had the fortunate.
Roseanne is from Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm, yep. I was fortunate enough to win a trip to New York, and I was a comedy fan, and I was, I think, 17 or 18. This is around 86, 87. And they took me to catch a rising star. Mm-hmm. Now, I've heard that some people think that that's not a very good club back in the day. What was your opinion of that club?
That was the club. That was the club back in the day. That's where you see all the famous people. My infamous night where I hung out with Robin Williams, doing drugs and drinking all night with him after meeting him there. I met Belushi in there. Now that was the place. And now the Comedy Cellar is like is the big place now, which they'll never let me perform there. I perform at the Catch, but they don't like people that work the crowd that are angry and pissed off there. They don't want me there.
I tried to see if there's anything on the internet where you can find like who performed when and what dates, and it's just impossible. I'm going back to looking, in like September of 1986, and I can't find out who was there because I remember who I saw. But I just wanted to feel like who was a big comic.
Richard Belzer was big there. I mean, I used to see Larry David go on back in those days, and if somebody would heckle him or if he didn't do well, he'd run off and just leave. Larry David wasn't really ever much of a good comedian, but just everybody. I remember Dennis Miller bumped into me, and I threw him against the wall because I never liked him. He was rude. He was rude. He's from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I've a lot of people in there, just as I said. And then the first time I went in there, Robin Williams, he thought he was funny. He goes, let's go hang out. And then, of course, he said, call me tomorrow. I'm going to help you. And I called and he was checked out. So that was the beginning of people not. Like I used to say, if I had $1 for every person that said they were going to help me, I would have $1 million. I've changed that to $2 million. Because everybody, in 40 years, how many people said they were going to do something for me? I just don't. And just to follow up on that a little bit too, it was Dennis Miller who I saw, and his joke to me, and I was like 17. We got special permission for me to be there because I won this contest, and Dennis Miller's joke was, it's about putting a condom, and he leans over to me and he goes, "Hey Chris, it's like wrapping cellophane around your dick. You'll get it later." And I'm like, he's pointing me out in there, and I just wasn't okay, is this up and coming guys? It was a main club, or is this like the guys on the way out? So you're saying this was. Catch Rising Star was a big. Catch was the place. Catch was the place, and then and then maybe like the comic strip, and then the comic strip is still kind of the same people who played at Catch pretty much played at the comic strip.
Wasn't when Barry Katz did the Boston? That was pretty big, right?
It's funny. I went to college with Barry Katz, and he had sold me some pot, and we had a disagreement, shall we say? And of course, there's another guy who had to go on to become a mogul. So just another bad.
What do you attribute this to, Phil? I mean, is it bad luck, or is it you said you burned the transportation system? What do you think it is?
Probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm kinder and gentler now, and I don't really care as much anymore. But probably if I didn't book shows, maybe I would have went farther, early on. Because once again, just people that book shows are just not well thought of. Because I wouldn't trade off. Usually there are guys who would trade off. I had a partner who would trade off with anybody, but if they weren't funny, I wouldn't use them. I had a place called Betty's Fireside in Denville, New Jersey, which was like a Blues Brothers kind of place with like the barbed wire around the stage situation, like a strip club situation. And if somebody would make it through there, then I would book them. I've had comedians call me and crying. They were upset that they were going to quit the business, that their car was going to get damaged. But if they can make it through that place, then I'd use them in the other places.
So who has taken care of you or paid you back for getting them some work early on outside of Norton?
Nobody. Just Jim Norton's the only one. Jim Norton and my agent Roger Paul. They're the only ones. Nobody else. They're all. I don't talk to anybody anymore. They're none of them do anything for me. I still have the stigma attached. Like I still book shows and people still hold that against me.
That's brutal. Funny, and no, I agree, because like you get something like, for me, for instance, I got a few dozen comics, made them regulars at the Laugh Factory in Chicago. I was part of that when it opened. They might have thanked me at the time they did their first show, but it's checking in would be nice. Like, like making a little rub regular. Yeah.
Speaking of your love for Jim Norton, it seems lately that you may not have a lot of love for Mr. Sam Roberts. It seems like he's
benign. He's just benign, Sam Roberts.
He's in your crosshairs lately on your appearances. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
On that show, I thank everybody, and then I don't get a response from him. Once again, like I went on there, I said I was never on Opie and Anthony, but Sam Roberts is the Opie to my Jim and Sam experience. And those people, they do not like Opie. Those people. I had like that Mike Montone and somebody else. We did a day in the life of Phil Selman when I went to the massage parlor.
Remember that?
And I said Opie, and both those guys, like it was like you said something bad about their mother. They hate it. And he was talking. He doesn't even know me, Opie, and he was talking bad about me on his podcast on Facebook or whatever. I think he does something on Facebook and 8 people watch. But I don't know. Fuck that guy. I don't know him, and how dare he talk about me? But Sam Roberts, once again, he's the wrestling. The wrestling is what he's concerned with. I don't dislike him. I just don't have any thoughts one way or another. He's there. He's there. He knows. Him and I both know the reason I'm there is because of Jim, and he said it before, and we'll just leave it at that.
So let me ask you this: what if Sam becomes one of these huge guys down the road, and you're like, hey, I used to go on your show, and now you won't even say hello to me? Is it because maybe you weren't nice to Sam?
I expect that, but I don't have any desires of going into the wrestling world, so I don't think I have anything to worry about. We all like wrestling, but we were like 9. Then we grew up and we didn't like it anymore. And he's still, I just say to him, I hope you get body slammed. And then he gets very upset every time I say that. And then I find that he's from Scarsdale. He's from a very wealthy area. So he's never had any struggle, that man. I will bust his balls next time. He's in Westchester. Scarsdale's like one of the wealthiest parts of Westchester he's from. He comes from money. So
I love it, because
I'll bust his balls about that next time.
I've noticed that you do, from your first appearance, it seems like there's been an incremental, there's been increases in how much you go at him, and it's been hilarious. So if you credit that to just some indifference towards him.
I don't. Once again, he's he's the other host. He's the other host. He's the other host. He's not my connection to the show, so I don't really. I did give him something. I gave him a wrestling book. It was like an expose.
Oh, that's nice.
Vince McMahon. And I actually had read the book. And he said to me, "Oh, it smelled like you had read it." I said, "No, you are the one who jerks off to wrestling, not me." And I actually gave Jim, my mother was pen pals with Son of Sam, and we went to go visit him in prison, and I gave Jim one of the letters from Son of Sam, which he with.
Yeah, he loves that stuff.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, can I go? Can I go visit him?" I said, "If you want to, but there's no need to visit. I don't think I sent him the picture, I get Polaroids with me and my late mother with Son of Sam at in the prison where he is upstate New York."
Yeah, I think you talked about it on the last show. That was awesome. That's fascinating.
And as I said, Jim was happy with that. So he's very, it's funny because he actually put it into a little plastic sheet thing, like you would put like a collectible. He put it in a special collectible case.
So he was pleased?
He was very pleased. Yes. I'm going to leave all my, if you can, I have many trinkets and collectibles, and they will all be left.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same thing with Scott behind him and whatnot.
My living room has a lot of stuff. I have people. Oh, you have thousands of dollars worth. I don't think. No, I don't have thousands of dollars worth. Maybe it's all worth $1,000 altogether. But I enjoy looking at it. I enjoy looking at all my little.
So let's get back to the days when Norton was coming up and being positive and doing well. Who do you think, out of all the guys that were working with Jimmy back in that day, who do you think in Phil Selman's mind was the funniest, other than Jim?
His class.
Otto and George. There was a ventriloquist named Otto and George who was very funny. He's dead. He died probably 7 or 8 years ago. And I was arrested with him for pot once. but he was very funny. Otto and George. You can find him on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Jim talks about him a lot. Jim went on the road with him a lot.
He was very, very funny. There's really nobody. I like George Carlin. He's dead. I like Don Rickles. He's dead. Everybody that I thought was funny is dead. There's nobody real. Jim is funny. There aren't too many other people I think are funny.
Do you think Jim did a good job of portraying Rickles in the that movie?
Mm-hmm. I think so. Like I know Rich Voss longer than anybody. You guys know Rich Voss.
I'm sorry. Oh, no, I heard you. I'm hurt. I just said I'm
a big Voss fan. Chris has his moments.
I'm sorry to hear that. But I know him, as I said, I know him longer than anybody. I have to say he was funnier when he was a drug addict. When he was a crack addict, he was much funnier. Much funnier. I remember he sold his coat for crack once. And he told somebody, he goes, I've got to go stop and visit some relatives first in like a bad part of Harlem. He was going to buy drugs. So
that's right. Well, you've been clean and sober for a while here too, right?
I still smoke pot, but I haven't drank since my last arrest when I was working with Jimmy Walker over 21 years ago. Every time I work with Jimmy Walker, there's a problem. Something bad happens. I really don't like that guy. I don't ever.
Scott, did you say that you worked with him?
I did work with at Riddle's Comedy Club on the South Side here in Chicago. I did work with him.
Every time I was supposed to play Chicago, the place goes out of business. I've never actually played in Chicago. I'm actually playing in Wisconsin. I'm playing at the Kenosha Comedy Club in the end of June. So I guess that's relatively close there, but I've never made it actually.
You got to get here.
I've been in the airport rooms now. Been in the airport in Chicago. I've never actually made it into Chicago. So
oh no.
I have to. I think I would like the food there. I think you would like it there.
I mean, the bagels aren't going to compete with New York bagels.
The hot dogs and the other stuff there.
Yeah, they say dragging them through the garden. That's what they do with the hot dogs here. You just can't get any ketchup on them. Ketchup's a no-no.
That's sacrilege. You don't ever put.
That's right. You got it.
Yeah,
mustard on a hot dog.
Let me ask you about Norton's contemporaries. So guys that he came up with, like the tough crowd guys, like Voss, Bobby Kelly. Maybe you can even Colin Quinn. Who's the funniest out of all those guys? You think?
Colin Quinn was pretty funny. I always thought Colin Quinn was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Mark Cohn is funny. What's his name? The guy who did Up All Night. I can't think of his name. What's his name?
Oh,
Attell? Not Attell.
Yeah, David Attell is
funny. Oh, yeah, Insomniac. Yeah.
Yeah, so Phil, you were talking about these guys and all the things that, when they came up and whatnot. What do you think, and this is kind of, you can say that everybody has a different opinion here. What do you think makes a good comic? What is the thing that a good comic has? What do they possess?
They have to really want to do it. I think they have to really want to do it, and they have to really want to hone their craft and just keep doing it, because the only way you get better is to keep doing it. And I think that's the thing. Because when people, that's what I say. Somebody says, I've always thought about doing comedy. And I said, well, don't. Just don't do it. Or I have a kid that wants to do it. I'll be happy to discourage them from doing it. We don't need any more people in comedy. But I just say you have to really want to do it.
What makes a comic funny in your opinion, though? What makes somebody just has it? How do you know? Because you booked a lot of guys and you knew when they had it.
I don't think anybody's funny anymore. And you're asking the wrong person. I'm too jaded. I can't. I've seen. I don't laugh at. If I see somebody slip on the ice and fall down, I'll laugh. Something like that. Like the Three Stooges, more along those lines. I don't think anybody's funny now. Actually, Shane Gillis. I think that he's funny.
Yeah.
He's funny, but there aren't a lot of guys that I think are funny.
What do you attribute that to? I'm sorry, Scott.
No,
go ahead. You think it's burnout, Phil? Is it just, this industry has kind of just made you salty in a way?
I've seen more comedians than anybody should ever have to see. Why would I ever, somebody, if I go out with walk around the road, you don't want to go see a comedy show? God, no. And I would never go to a comedy. The last thing that I would want to do. And there's no other job where, you say you're a comedian, tell me a joke. When they're a plumber, tell me how to fix my toilet. You're a teacher, teach me something, and it's the only business where if you own a comedy club after 6 months, you think you're a comedian. They always think they're a comedian, the guys who own these places. And then they're emceeing, and then they think they're comedians. So everybody thinks they can do it.
I saw recently you were working with SoulJoel, right? You were doing his place.
And that's what I did with the guy from the Housewives of New Jersey, with Joe Gorga.
Gotcha. Yeah, so he was on Jim and Sam and with Mike Cannon, and Scott and I were talking that, Mike Cannon was on previous to him and kind of ate up, SoulJoel's time. And, and what we know about him, he's a big deal because he really helped comics coming out of the pandemic have a place to go. Do you feel the same way?
I didn't play there during the pandemic, so no. Fuck him. Fuck him. No, he's a nice guy. No. What is it? The Peace Corps? Please. What are we fucking doing? The way we're talking here? He helps comics. Please. I'm gonna help comics. When I'm in Wisconsin. By the way, is pot legal in Wisconsin? Do you know? Or I don't know.
I would assume it is.
It is here in Illinois.
In the Midwest,
it's in Illinois for sure.
Colorado, right? In Colorado,
I know
Colorado
it is Michigan.
too.
Colorado's where it started legally.
Michigan, yeah. So, Phil, you mentioned earlier you're working on a book.
Yes, my
biography
book is being finished. Yes, it's a book. It's a biography about my life. It's called Phil Selman, the most famous person I never met. The cover will have 9 pictures, like the Brady Bunch, all different pictures of me. Different hairstyles, different weights. From my, I have the pictures from when I first started to now, so it's depressing.
When's supposed to publish?
Simon & Schuster is going to be doing the book, so it's going to be taking a bit longer. So it's going to be probably another few months.
That's a good one. That's excellent. Yeah. Let me ask you, because it sounds like the way you've used it on the show, it sounds like pleasing must be a tagline you've used.
That's a Phil Selman tagline. It pleases me. Yes.
Yes. So I feel like that's something that could have worked in old school New York. I think it's something that could still be very funny. How long have you used that for?
It's been like something I've said pretty much for from my whole life, basically. So sometimes I'll say it on stage, but it never really caught on, unfortunately.
You just picked it up when you were younger.
Just something that I thought. I don't know. I used to, when I would call people up and people would do an impression of me and say you're going to drive 300 miles. You're each going to take $10. You're going to send him $300, and it pleases me. That I'm getting. But I wasn't quite that much with the money. But people who will still say to this day about that. That I was charged. I never made anybody do a gig. If they didn't want to do it, they didn't have to do it.
Let me ask you this along those lines. What was your biggest gig? What was you said the one with the 4 seasons, the 10,000 fans. Was that your highest paying gig as well?
Oh, no, that wasn't my highest paying. That was just the most amount of people I ever played for. I opened for Metallica once. That was not good. I opened for Cheap Trick. I opened for Frankie Valli and the 4 Seasons. I opened for Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. I thought they were shouting Jew, that they wanted me to get off. They were shouting Jew. But that little fucker, Southside Johnny's like 5'3" little fucker. I used his bathroom. Get him off the stage. And where was I? Was I supposed to pee outside? Because I peed in his bathroom. So fuck. And that guy Southside Johnny is still around. He's still around, Southside Johnny.
I feel like I've heard that name, Southside Johnny.
Southside Johnny, Asbury Jukes. He had like a song in the '80s, and I guess he's still living off of that.
Okay.
Maybe from Springsteen, like a discard. Just not good enough to be within Springsteen's band, but along those lines of the same thing, I would say.
So I saw some TV credits for you. And I want to ask you for specifics. What'd you do for Comedy Central and MTV?
Yeah, the shows. They were just shows that were on there. Back in the day when you had a million comedy shows.
Yeah,
it was just on different comedy shows. And you get paid once. MTV, Paramount, you get paid one time, and then they could show it forever. So really
no residuals there.
No residuals. No residuals from anything.
So what are we talking? Like when they would have like a camera at a club, or would you go?
No,
Comedy Central would do like a premium blend.
They filmed it like a real show. Back in the '80s, back during the heyday, there were a million comedy shows.
Yeah,
comedy on the road, comedy at the
half-hour comedy
Evening
hour
at the Improv. Right.
Yeah, there was a million comedy shows. So I did some of those shows, but then there was a show called Californication on Showtime, which I did. They had myself and a few other comedians. Like they showed us a preview and we made comments about it. And they said I was going to be the face of Showtime, but I guess David Duchovny was threatened by my good looks.
You kind of look like David Duchovny, though.
That's why they had me do it. And then I decided to slick my hair back, but my hair is real and I'm taller than him. But evidently David Duchovny was threatened by my good looks and charm. There was a girl on there who's gone on to be somewhat successful now, Michelle Buteau, who's been in some movies and doing some stuff. But I don't even remember the names of the other people. But you're going to be the face of this. You're going to be that. And then, of course, I totally got cut out. But then that's show business. So in your biography, will you be even more so than you do here, naming more names of the people that wronged you? I don't want to, the people who are still alive that are famous. I don't say their names, but you can guess who they are. Anybody who's dead, I can mention, but I don't want to be sued by anybody.
Yeah.
So, anything that's like Florentine, about the fact that when we went to Amsterdam and he had to try a piece of space cake and then he got scared and thought he was going to die. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? I said, you'll die, but that's not going to happen. I said, you'll be fine. And then, because he wasn't even talking, he wasn't even talking, he was talking like a normal person, with his fake put on voice there, Florentine. But and then he canceled me out of a gig. We were going to do a gig like the next night when we came back from Kuwait, and he canceled me. So then I sent him a message. I should have let him die in Amsterdam when I had the opportunity. didn't really feel the same about that after that. But I guess
You know, we've
ended our. And then he told me when we were on Jim and Sam, he goes, "I'm going to have you open for you. I'm going to start doing theaters." He works with a guy who doesn't like me, so that's not happening. But whatever, I know, I don't care. It doesn't.
So
matter.
in our mind, I guess the legendary place to be, if you could be a fly on the walls around the comedy central, the comedy Cellar's table, right? The world famous
That
table there.
table
You've
before,
spent some time there, right?
yes.
Is this where the meanness comes from? Do you think just because you have to bash those other guys?
The way comics are, I think comics. That's how comics are. With being I mean, Voss is just a bad example, but being competitive and saying stuff. But you don't care for Voss. Is that correct? You're not.
No, I he drives me crazy.
You're coming around though,
him,
Chris. I know you're coming around.
I have seen Voss clear a room because Voss doesn't know when to get off the stage. I remember we were doing a show at the Jersey Shore and there was nobody left because he literally, he doesn't know when to get off the stage. There was a comedian named Bob Woods who was a very funny guy who Eddie Murphy had stole his some stuff from in the beginning, and he gave me some of the best advice I ever had. He said, "Let them leave the stage, leave them wanting more.
Right.
It's better to get off when you're doing really well and have them want more as opposed to stay on there like Voss for an hour and a half or 2 hours."
He probably hasn't done well yet.
Yeah, and he just doesn't know when to get off. Once again, as I said, he was funny when he was a drug addict. That's all. That's the thing I'll say.
No, I appreciate what Voss is, and anybody, Jim loves him so deeply that anybody that Jim loves that much can't be all that bad.
And he's once again he's harmless, Voss. I think he's just harmful to himself, and he's not aging well. He looks like a. I said, don't get your tattoos and your teeth done in the same place. That's a problem there. Yeah, he looks like an old carny, Voss, with his backward cap and his tattoos all over the place.
He's got to be one of the quickest guys you've ever seen, though, right? With an off the cuff.
I think I'm funnier than he is because I'm more educated than he is, but it doesn't really make a difference.
We think that Jimmy is one of the quickest.
He's smart. He's also very smart.
Yeah.
Jimmy's very smart also.
Yeah.
And Florentine, we see Florentine like on Gutfeld. There's nothing. He can't even spell political Florentine, so I just don't understand. How that guy's on there. But that's like the big show now.
And you think his voice is a put on?
I know his voice is a put on because when he thought he was going to die, he was talking like a little girl.
Maybe that space cake had something to do with it, right? Maybe it changed.
No, but he was afraid. He was afraid.
We all talk like a girl, I guess, when we're afraid.
We were going to go to. We got there like at 7:00 in the morning. That's like the only time you don't want to go to the prostitutes is at 7:00 in the morning because there really weren't any good ones at that time. So as I said, he had the space cake, and as I said, he regretted it. But he's still alive, and he's still. We've mended our fences, shall we say?
That's good.
Yeah.
So Jim gets you on Jim and Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Then did like the next appearance or maybe two after that? Is it Travis who's booking you? How's it work now or since then? I guess.
Like when I have something to promote, I can contact Jim or Travis, and they let me come on.
That's nice. So what are your impressions of all the guys that are more behind the scenes?
I like everybody.
You're familiar with Montone.
I like everybody but Sam Roberts. I like everybody there but Sam Roberts. Sam Roberts is a douchebag. Everybody else is a nice guy. Look, he's got his little wrestling dolls and shit that he's got to do. He has 3 children, and he needs to make a living. Let him continue with his with what he does there. No, they're all nice there. All
yeah.
guys. And
you know what you got to do?
I had Travis and Troy confused because I brought edibles for Jim's wife for one of the guys, and I brought up bottle of Jack, and I had Troy and Travis confused. But now I know because I don't know. I assume that because the guy always got me, but then that was Troy. I thought that was Travis, but now I have it all straightened out there.
Well, we heard that if you bring Nikki edibles, make sure you bring candy because she tends to eat all the candy after having an edible. So you have to bring candy and edibles because she will eat all of it.
She eats those edibles. She's not going to be eating any candy. Those edibles, she's going to be laying there like a dead person, and Jim probably like that. Those things, they're very strong. I have THC running through my veins. The edibles I have are ridiculously strong. So,
are we talking over 50 milligrams?
They're like 1,000 milligrams. One strip is 1,000 milligrams.
Oh, that's amazing.
So they're very strong. I get up at this past year for New Year's Eve. I woke up at 1:30 in the morning after New Year's from the night before with the edibles. So the edibles, I think I was up at 7:00 on Sunday. So the edibles definitely there's a good sleep involved with the edibles.
They do the trick. You know what you got to do, Phil, is you got to go back to an Opie and Anthony clip on YouTube. I don't know if you heard this, where Kevin Pollak goes at Sam and Voss, and they both have hated Kevin Pollak ever since. He just did not like Sam or Voss. And I think there's maybe like 3 different shows where they go at each other. It's pretty interesting.
I met Kevin Pollak once. He was nice. He
thought so?
Anthony was nice. He was nice. He was a hack. He's kind of hacky with what he does.
That's what Voss says. Voss says, "Oh, let me turn around and do my Columbo."
Yeah, well, Voss wishes he had his career. You know, well, I mean, that guy is on every.
I mean, yeah, Casino, right? I mean,
Well,
a few good men, Casino.
I think he's a regular on The Neighborhood now. You know, he works.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. Let me ask you this, Phil. Obviously, we know your love for Jim. We know your love for yourself, which I have love for myself. Scott does as well. Who would you say in the business that you actually really like still? Is there anybody still that you go, I really like this person. It's a good person.
There's a comedian named Billy Guerin, who's a friend of mine. He does cruise ships. I'm still friends with him. And there's a guy named John Rizzo that I'm friends with. There's a couple of guys. Those are two guys. There's a guy named Rick Allen. There's a few guys. SoulJoel isn't a bad guy. And there's some guys. But, you know, I don't have close relationships anymore with them. I don't want to get close to any comedians. I don't. That's enough. I don't, you know, I'm not looking to make any more friends at this point.
So outside of your time of having bagels, maybe a rub and tug and doing
a rub and tug, it's a full throttle. It's the
whole thing, and doing comedy. What else occupies your time? What's something that you enjoy doing?
I like to exercise. I like to go to the movies. I like to go to see Broadway shows. I go to off-Broadway shows. I like to go to concerts. I like to read. I keep myself busy. You know, people always say, "What do you do during the day?" The same thing I've been doing during the day for the last 40 years. I get up at like 2 p.m. I go to bed about 5 a.m. I get up about 1, 2 p.m. and that's that. I have, you know, my activities that I do.
That's great.
My last comment. I think when the book comes out, not only do you have to go back on Jim and Sam and promote, I think you need a signed copy for everybody, including Sam. Are you going to leave Sam out?
Sam will not get one. Everybody will get one, but Sam, when I go on there, I will bring 4 copies. He will not. I mean, you can't give a copy to somebody who doesn't know how to read. The guy doesn't know how to read. Like Voss. You know, when Voss says, "Why didn't you ask me to write a comment?" Voss didn't even read the book his wife wrote. You know, Voss doesn't know how to read. He didn't. I read that book. It was a good. You know that she dated John Stamos. How do you go from John Stamos to Voss? It's not even the same universe. They both end in S. Maybe she's like dyslexic. Because I mean, geez, no, I don't understand it. I can't imagine how you go from John Stamos to Voss. But I don't know.
All right, my last question: in this book that's coming out, will we see anything on Jimmy in it?
Oh yeah, I'll be carrying. He's writing the introduction to it. He's writing the introduction.
Oh, awesome! That's
very
great.
Good. Very good.
Awesome.
Phil, I can't thank you enough for doing this with us. It's been a pleasure, man. We really enjoyed you on Jim and Sam for sure.
Thank you for having me.
There you have it. Phil was awesome. He was what you wanted him to be. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And my one takeaway is I have no idea how he feels about Sam. I don't know if he was joking or not.
You're exactly how I felt. I was like, does he really think Sam is this guy that he doesn't want to pay any attention to? Or is he, is it just a bit? Who knows, man? It's just good. And what I love about Phil is he seems just tired of it all. So he's just going to be honest and talk about it. And I think that's kind of refreshing, huh?
I agree. He's absolutely hilarious. He just wants his credit that's due. And he helped break a lot of guys. So I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, you experienced that yourself a little bit directly in your small part of it here in Chicago. So yeah, Phil was great. I hope everybody enjoyed having him on. Scott, thanks for getting him for us. And thank you all for watching. The guys are on vacation, but back strong next week. And we can't wait for you all to join us again in the town square.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Jim and Sam Town Square. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell, not dog bell, so you don't miss an episode.
And if you're just listening to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it.